Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or over in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
We just need to focus. Good luck. Welcome to this week's edition of Stay Off My Lawn. It's August 27th, 2024, and this is episode 80. 80.
Woohoo! Yeah, we're getting to have some old numbers, all right.
Still not as old as Joe, but I mean, it's getting there. 80 for our friends in Guatemala. How was your weekend? I threw that out at him.
Well, it was interesting. You know, the wife, I can have college football on from 10 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night. Literally, there'd be 4 games, one after another. She don't care. She'll sit down and watch some of them with me. So our little small town, I would say small town because Caldwell's not that big, but it's a small college, private college called College of Idaho, and they're in the NAIA, the College of Idaho Yotes.
Yotes.
Anyway.
Yotes.
Yeah, it's coyotes.
Oh, I was going to say.
That's not what a coyote sounds like.
Sounds like something that
anyway.
would come up in the back of your throat after drinking too much. But that's.
But last year, they were 1 game away from being in the finals.
Oh, okay.
And the team that they lost to by only 3 points is the one that won the title.
Oh, okay.
So we gave them everything there. This year, right now, currently, they were ranked 4th in the nation in the NAIA. So College of Idaho football, we wear the purple shirts. I have them. We go and yay raw. Only it was supposed to be hot. It was 66 degrees and spitty rain.
Oh, my goodness.
Like a misty rain.
Well, that's the way college football ought to be, when you're sitting.
In August, this was awesome. It was pleasant. I had a little thin, just kind of like a rain slicker, but it wasn't for the Yotes. It was for Boise State. I went, I'm not buying one for them. They said, no, this was spendy enough for the one I have. Because we used to have season tickets to them, but to go see the games, it's a whopping $12 a
Oh my goodness! Oh, I don't know how you people on fixed incomes can afford something like that. That's terrible.
I'll tell you, yeah, fixed incomes are difficult. We're in the middle of figuring out because for those uneducated or haven't gone into the portal of getting money from Social Security.
What'd you call me?
They figure our raise not on what was the year's inflation rate, but it's only for July, August, and September.
See,
those 3 months average out is what you get for a raise the next year.
I wonder how they came up with that formula. That just seems
well. Not only that, they have several different CPIs. By the way, we, the old guys, are in the CPIW, which is for office workers and.
Oh, really? Interesting.
We don't spend like they do. There is a senior citizen one, but they don't want to use that because you'd get too much money.
If you're not familiar with what CPI is, it's Consumer Price Index, which is just the way the economy flows through your demographic, I guess. So
they can finagle numbers and change things and go, hey, just like they finagled numbers for what was it back in April for what the increase in the being hired and all that kind of stuff, job growth, they had to adjust it down by 880,000. They were off by a little. The numbers were
818,
right.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's. I was going to bring that up. I actually have a note for that later. But yeah, 818,000. No, they fudged the numbers. The Democrats? No, that's just.
Yeah.
That's silly.
3-4%. I'll even give them 5%. There was an error on. Okay, yeah. I'll even give you that much.
Yeah.
What?
Almost $1 million? No.
Yeah, you're off by close to $1 million. No.
And if you don't believe it, you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and really that's where you're going to get.
We'll be into that later too.
And we'll be into that later. But that's really where you get a lot of the true numbers that the I think it's from Congress actually, was where these numbers come from. But you end up with this. You can find all kinds of statistics on actual numbers of people that are working full time, and there's a word for that, and it's escaping me, but I've got it here. The labor force, easy for me to say, participation rate, and if you look at that year over year, you see that those are people that are actually working full time, as opposed to this quasi unemployment rate, which people fall off those roles and people jump on. So, I mean, that's kind of a fluid thing. The labor force participation rate is actually how many people are gainfully employed in full-time positions in the country. And it's really a very low number. It's in the 60s, 62% or something. It's just awful.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the College of Idaho. Had a blast at the football game. We were there with friends. We went early and had pizza and beer and then went to the game. So we did our own little mini tailgate at the pizza parlor. There was a kid's birthday. Oh Lord, there was way too many screaming kids in there, but we were in a back area where they weren't. So it helped.
So if you're an Idaho State Trooper, go hang out at that pizza parlor and pull over, I don't know, 1 out of every 3 people coming out of that parking lot. You should be able to finance your department for another year or so.
Let's see. We had all of, one pitcher filled, had a glass and a half of beer.
I didn't talk about you. I'm just saying your buddies.
It was a great time having, anyway.
I'm good enough to drive. Anyway, some news for us. We are in talks with a company called the Oracle Talk Radio Network. We've heard back from them, and they seem very interested. We just got to tie that up in a bow here pretty soon. So we're going to be on that network. Should be within the next few weeks, hopefully.
Hopefully.
So anyway,
they were interested enough that the sample you sent of us, blah, 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 blabbing, they went, hey, we like how they blah, 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 and got right back within an hour. So Mike did a great job of finding this and sending some of our stuff along. So the more people we can entertain for an hour each week, the better we like it.
And we can throw out a little bit of information too. I mean, it's informatively funny, is what Richard came up with a while back, and it's perfect for what we have here. We are continuing the search for Kamala's voters. They're Kamala's voters' favorite policy. Which it's kind of hard to find, but we did a little bit of this last week, and they're continuing the Man on the Street interviews, and this is how this week's went.
What's your favorite policy of Kamala's?
That's a hard one.
What's your favorite policy of Kamala's?
Her being president.
That's your favorite policy position?
Oh, yeah.
How so?
Because it covers everything that she defends.
I'm really excited for her to restore reproductive rights across America.
How do you think she'll go about doing that?
I don't know.
What a fun question.
I don't know. I'm picking and choosing. I mean, I really like most of them.
So you have to look at it broadly, right? It's about what she stands for right now.
What's your favorite of Kamala's policies?
I'm trying to think. Well, actually, more of like, what Walz comes in.
All of her policies, everything from I'm non-binary, and so all of the policies for basic human rights to have our own bodies and do with them as we please,
Her willingness to move forward on affordable health care.
How do you think she'll do that as president?
I think she'll work to motivate the legislature to vote in favor of it.
As her as a person, just tops out any policy. I really admire her.
Great. Thank you both so much.
I like the one where it's like, what a fun question. What do you mean a fun question?
Well, I like all of them. They're very interesting. I really like all. The one guy on healthcare is probably not aware that her platform, you have to go find this stuff. It's not just out there. You got to dig.
It's not even on her website.
To get rid of all private healthcare.
Yep. That's
the government will take care of you and you will like it. Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's kind of the communist way. I mean, if you want to look at the Communist Manifesto and apply it to what the DNC and the modern day Democrat lefties now, I mean, there's a lot of similarities. That's all I can say.
Yeah, they were. I just read this morning that somebody said, well, Kamala doesn't need to have any debates with Trump. It's going to do Trump a lot more good than it is Kamala because it's going to show she's a buffoon.
I think they're trying to back out of this one for September 10th. I heard that this morning.
Already?
Yeah, they're trying to back out.
Are they going to like put her in the basement somewhere too? Because she still hasn't had a press conference.
She might be afraid of monkeypox. That might be the thing that she needs to do. I mean, monkeypox, pox, whatever it is. It's really bad.
Well, just remember, with monkeypox, the K is silent.
Ooh, moneypox. Oh, I like that. Yeah, we need to. You know what? We could sell that to the RNC. I've
seen it a couple times. I stole it from. I have no idea.
I like that you admit that you stole it. I think we are honest here. If not anything else, I am
not that bright to come up with that one. Hey, informatively funny. It was an epiphany, and it hurt when it smacked me that hard.
And it's still informative, even if it's not our idea. So,
that works.
Last Friday, RFK Jr. made a big announcement and suspended his campaign for president and endorsed President Trump. This is how that sounded.
It's with a sense of victory and not defeat that I'm suspending my campaign activities. Not only did we do the impossible by collecting 1 million signatures, we changed the national political conversation forever. And these are the principal causes that persuaded me to leave the Democratic Party and run as an independent. And now to throw my support to President Trump. The causes were free speech, the war in Ukraine, and the war on our children.
The war on our children. Yeah, with all these shots they want to keep giving the kids over and over. And now I think with Kamala, that was another message I heard the other day, is that they want to make the COVID vaccine part of one of the requirements in order to get into some school, to get into elementary school. So, I mean, that's terrible. And I know RFK would not be for that. He's very much against this COVID vaccine.
Well, between that and keeping information away from parents, when somebody says, I want to be called Jill instead of John, it's not good. That's part of the war on it also.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
And then schools are complaining, wow, our enrollment is down so far. Do you know how bad it is when Seattle has to close elementary schools because over 10,000 students were not enrolled? Well, people said, nope. We are doing them. And now they're trying to figure out how to force them back into school.
I was talking to my daughter-in-law yesterday, and she had said something about it. She doesn't necessarily want to send our granddaughters to school. I mean, they're only 15 months old, but I mean, she's thinking ahead and send them to school because, first of all, the indoctrination and then, the requirement of all these shots. We just don't know what's the world going to look like in 3.5 years or 2.5 years when they sign up for pre-K or whatever. So her plan is right now is to homeschool, which I think is a fantastic plan. I think that if you have the opportunity to do that, then I think that's the way you should go.
Yeah, and my day back when I was in school, there was nobody doing it. If you were a homeschooled kid, it's because you were weird, and it's like, what is your problem?
I know it.
Yeah, it was so minuscule for home back in the 70s. It's like, get serious. Now it's not uncommon.
No, it's not at all. I think it's a fantastic idea because we should be in control of what our kids learn. I mean, and back when you and I were in school, we weren't taught any of this extraneous crap that's being taught now. Where math and science and everything kind of take a back seat to indoctrination. I think it's a good idea. It's the only way we can fight it right now. And unless Kamala gets elected and they somehow make the homeschooling thing extremely difficult or illegal, then that wouldn't surprise me.
That's freedom of choice, and yeah, she gets in a lot of things where she wants to actually confiscate patents.
I saw that
because I can do it. No, you can't.
Wasn't it?
Unless it's a dictatorship and it's under communism
and
rule.
It sure is looking more like that. The Democratic Party, especially, all the oligarchs in the Democratic Party all sound the same. Let's not forget the Democrat Tulsi Gabbard, well, she's not a Democrat anymore. Tulsi Gabbard endorsed President Trump yesterday, was on stage with him. And and I don't have a clip of that, but it went very, very well. And she, again, I still believe that she would have been the best running mate for Trump. But
yep, I thought that would have been. She is very, very bright. Although I don't really have a trouble with the longer JD Vance is there.
I don't either.
These guys tried to get. He really handles the gotcha questions.
He sure does.
Very well.
And he's just like Trump. He doesn't mind going into the lion's den. He was on ABC. He was on CNN, and he'll take any question. And man, he body slams them verbally. I mean, he's brilliant. He's a brilliant guy.
He's very, very quick, and they don't get away with, ooh, we have this gotcha question. No, we want to hear this answer. And nope. It's like, that's not what it is. Well, no, I'm here interviewing you. Well, maybe you are, but I want to.
Yep. He gives him a shot to the solar plexus and it's all over. It's beautiful. Hey, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from RFK Jr.'s running mate, Nicole Shanahan. She was interviewed about her experience with this whole campaign. So hang in there. We will be right back.
The Stay Off My Lawn podcast is recorded before a live studio audience.
Israel is on high alert in preparation for an attack from Iran and its terror proxies. Israelis are preparing to spend days or even weeks living in bomb shelters. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews has launched a project to immediately equip those bomb shelters with basic essentials for survival. And we need your help now. With just a $45 donation, you can help provide an emergency food box that includes food, water, baby formula, and other critical essentials for vulnerable Israelis trapped in bomb shelters. Thanks to generous fellowship partners, we have a special matching challenge opportunity where your gift will double in impact. Your gift today will help save lives and provide emergency essentials for those in need. Visit supportifcj.org and donate today to stand with our brothers and sisters in Israel. That's supportifcj.org. All right, I guess we're ready. We are welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 2, and I think I can count that high today. Nicole Shanahan, who was RFK Jr.'s running mate, was interviewed. And I don't remember if this was on CNN or MSNBC, or I honestly don't remember, but she was talking about her experience with the campaign, being, basically shunned for the, that was another thing. Secret Service has been taken off of RFK Jr. now. So he's completely on his own. He doesn't, I think they went back and allowed him to have Secret Service
protection.
protection.
Didn't have it until like a month ago.
Exactly. But they took it away almost immediately as soon as he got out of and he's still on the ballot in 40 different states. So I think that's terrible. It's all terrible. But anyway, Nicole Shanahan had this to say about her experience running with RFK Jr.
Not put in tens of millions of dollars to be a spoiler candidate. I put in tens of $millions to win, to fix this country. Clear Choice, this PAC, this DNC aligned PAC that was created specifically to take us out, has spent millions of dollars to take us out. They have banned us, shadow banned us, kept us off stages, manipulated polls, used lawfare against us, sued us in every possible state. They've even planted insiders into our campaign to disrupt it and to create actual legal issues for us. I mean, the extent by which the sabotage they've unleashed upon us, it's mind-blowing. I mean, we're still learning new ways that they have sabotaged us. I really wanted a fair shot at this election, and I believed in the America that a little girl pledged an allegiance to. And that is not where we are today. And it's not because of the Republican Party taking us out. It is exclusively because of the Democratic Party taking us out. And I am so disappointed I ever helped them. I am so disappointed that I helped Chuck Schumer in that Georgia runoff secure a majority. It's probably one of the biggest mistakes of my life.
If you can get past the whole Valley Girl vocal fry that she's got going on there, oh my God,
that's one thing that just drives me nuts is that vocal fry. Means when you get to the end, it's like,
really,
stop it.
I really had such a rough time. But yeah, anyway.
She had good things to say. She
Yeah.
spoke her mind on what actually took place. And yeah, I can't believe when she was helping Schumer, she didn't notice
what was going on then. Yeah,
individual.
I think it was that was the Raphael Warnock race that she was helping him with, just to maintain the majority in the Senate. And Chuck Schumer, if you can't see that evil from a mile away, I mean, he's as bad as Hillary or Nancy Pelosi. I mean, none of them are.
That little smirk when he's doing something underhanded just gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Did you see the video from a long time ago when Kamala Harris was senator and he was up at the stage and she said something? She was talking to the person next to her and he turned around and looked at her like it was the dad saying, "Don't make me come in the back seat right now," and she just and she rolled her eyes. It's kind of like, holy crap. So he doesn't, I don't think he cares for her at all. But, she's like the teenager that was like in that video. It was really quite telling. But if you can't find that video, I'll have to see if I can put it up on our Instagram page. But it was very, very good. But as far as the DNC goes, Michelle Obama had a few interesting things to say during her speech at the DNC, and Wesley Austin breaks down that hypocrisy.
Is that what we're going to
call
Michelle
Obama's speech on day 2 of the DNC was a masterclass in irony.
She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
The Obamas have a combined net worth of $70 million, and they own a bunch of properties, including a mansion in Washington, D.C. worth $8.1 million. But that's not more than they needed. Look, they needed that extra square footage to store all their humility. The Obamas also have a home in Martha's Vineyard worth $11.75 million. But again, it's not more than they needed. I mean, without it, where would they put their fleet of kayaks and organic quinoa garden? In their defense, they're not taking more than they need. They're just taking more than they could ever use, which is totally different.
It's totally different.
It's nowhere near the same. I love that guy. He cracks me up. It's all just very satire, looking at the camera like, yeah.
Wink, wink, nod, nod. Yeah, check this out. Store all their humility. I love that part.
Yeah, don't trust these rich people. And later they had Michelle on their worth. Her family's worth $70 million. And right next to her, Oprah was up there, and she's a billionaire. But there are billionaires, so it's okay. And then they had the speaker. Who did you say it was?
It was J.D. Pritzker, I think the governor of Illinois. I think it's
he's worth $1 billion. Yeah. It's like so, but there are billionaires, so it's okay. Oh yeah, because they're part of the oligarch. So they're fine.
They're on our side. Did you see the video of Chris Cuomo? Of course, he's with Newsmax now. I think it's Newsmax or News Nation.
Oh,
News Nation.
Yeah, News Nation, maybe. Newsmax, no, I don't think they would have
it for them. But he was at the DNC and he was talking about the high seating arrangements they have up there, all the booths and everything they have up top. And they said it's sort of like the box seats, like if you were at a sporting event. But they said those box seats were worth $500,000 to rent out for the DNC, and even Chris Cuomo said, that is not from the teachers union in Charleston, South Carolina. These are the oligarchs. Those are the people in charge, really, the ones who, money runs everything.
Looking down upon the poor people of society that have chosen to follow us and are nothing but a bunch of sheep. We love them.
I think they're called subjects in a lot of circles.
Loyal subjects. Yes.
Yeah, and they're always telling us, no, the emperor actually has clothes on. But anyway, speaking of the oligarch Democrats, Biden's White House, more specifically, has been caught manipulating reports. Where we were talking about earlier, the 818,000 fewer jobs in actuality than was reported on initially. But the Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, who was being interviewed here by ABC at the convention,
missed it by a lot much.
Just by a little bit. Here's how that went.
Today, the Bureau of Labor saying that more than 800,000 fewer jobs were actually created than initially reported. Do you potentially think that this new numbers could be a liability for this campaign?
No, when I hear that, first of all, I don't believe it because I've never heard Donald Trump say anything truthful.
It is, though, from the Bureau of Labor.
I'm not familiar with that.
I do not know familiar with that.
I'm not familiar with the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay.
No, she said, I do not know familiar with that.
Oh, is that what she said? I didn't even notice that part.
I said, I think that's what I don't know. Trump, bad guy. That's all they have to say is,
Orange man
you
bad.
have been in charge for 3.5 years. Trump had nothing to do with what you're doing.
No doubt. This guy, but, that just kind of tells you that we have people in charge, or we have people in charge of these bureaus or whatever that are unqualified. It's all DEI hires. Well, we needed a woman in charge of this, so just go out in the street, see if you can find a woman walking down it, and bring her in. I mean, it's like, I personally, and I've heard the Democrats say this, I heard it at the convention and I held my nose and listened to part of the convention. I remember them saying that, the Republicans can't find it in their heart to vote for a woman. That's why they're not for Kamala Harris. That has nothing to do with it. I would vote for, Tulsi Gabbard. I'd vote for, there's a big list of people that I would vote for that has,
was
that
it
are
Nancy
women.
Mace?
Nancy Mace is a good one.
Yep.
Condoleezza Rice, probably the most overqualified president we could have in the White House, but she's brilliant. Why? I've got no problem.
Has nothing to do with their gender or their color at all.
No.
Zip, nine, nada, nothing. In fact, you had Elon Musk recently just said, this is what happens to a company, let alone a country, that hires people that are incompetent and how quickly they can ruin a company.
Absolutely.
And it's what's happening to our country, he said.
The incompetency is, if you're not paying attention, or if you're paying attention at all, you can see that everybody at the top is incompetent. Everybody.
They're just puppets of Soros and those that fund everything of what's going on.
Absolutely. Congressman Wesley Hunt from Texas was watching the convention, and he got kind of fed up with the whole race baiting theme. And, and all of us clear-minded Americans can see all that. And anyway, he kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent. He couldn't help himself. So here's him talking about that.
We're not watching a Democrat National Convention. We're watching a Democrat National Coronation. And the fact that they're mentioning President Trump ad infinitum, Trump is all you're hearing from these people. And when you think about the last 16 years that we've had presidents in this country, of the last 16 years, 12 of those years have been under Democrat rule. So they can't run on their record. They can't run on the economy. They can't run on jobs. They can't run on making the lives of black people better. The only thing that they can run on is race. And for the record, I consider myself to be a young, black, educated person. And guess what? President Trump is just fine with me. And that's why I support him every single day. And I've been supporting him for the past 8 years. And so the fact that they are bringing up race over and over again just shows you that they have absolutely nothing to run on. And the only thing that they could do is pander to the black community by having Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, and they're running around having concerts instead of actually talking about the policies that are impacting us every single day. And it's also the assumption that black people are stupid and they can't read right through what they are trying to do. This is about inflation. This is about jobs. This is about the border. You're not hearing them mention any of the above because they've been a complete disaster under Democrat presidents. And that includes President Barack Obama, who was the president for 8 years prior to the 4 years of President Trump, where we saw a lot of success. And so when you only have one play, they have to play it over and over and over again in order to brainwash people. But I do believe that we know better. And we also know that in November, we have to have President Trump back in office to make our lives better. I don't want to hear about race baiting. I want to hear about how are you going to improve the lives of not just black people, but of all Americans.
Yeah, I mean, I had not thought about that the last 12 years has been 12 of the last 16 years has been Democrat presidencies and Democrat run Congress. So, I mean, he's got an excellent point.
I saw a sarcastic political ad about, don't you want to be, why can't this nice, clean, small town America look like Los Angeles? Don't you want to have all this filth in your city too?
I don't know if I ever recorded that, but I wanted that ad for our show because it's a fake ad, but it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a fake ad. It was hilarious. Yeah. It's like, why do you want that? These policies have not worked anywhere that they've been chosen to be, for lack of a better term.
No. Well, now the big thing that they're trying to push, this whole thing where they're going to continue to say it over and over and over again. I noticed it starting yesterday, and I've heard it probably 7 times since then, is that, well, Trump was running on the successes of Barack Obama. He really didn't do anything. He was just kind of like basking in the glow of how successful Barack Obama was during his presidency. But it's like, if you stop and you look back at the numbers, it got significantly better once Obama left office and not while he was in office. He had 8 years. All of a sudden, it got better the year after he left. I'm not buying it. But they're starting to push that now. So
it's and the propaganda machine is doing just what they used to do under the auspice of the little mustache man. Lots of it and people just aren't watching anymore.
Nope.
There aren't any newspapers. They've gone defunct because they were all liberal, and people went, I'm not reading this crap no more.
Well, the little mustache man and Stalin kind of they perfected that whole idea of just throwing out a lie over and over and over again in order to get people to believe it, and it works. It always works, no matter what.
That was the premise: is tell a lie so big that it can't be wrong, and then tell it often, and people go, well, I guess it must be true. Yep. Except it's not working in America anymore. There's been way too many other places to find information and get things out, and people are, if you're not finding it, you're not trying very hard.
See, I think that's the great thing about living in 2020 is that we do have this social media, even though it's got its evils in and of itself. But I think we do have this social media where we can hear directly from people like Wesley Hunt and from other senators and Congress people, and people are actually in the know. They're on the ground. They know what's happening, and we can get true information from them rather than just whatever the media decides to spew at us. And of course, it was. And if you're still watching ABC, CNN, even Fox,
or even your local news is, I don't know of any of those that are any good because they're owned by a big company that tells them what to say.
Absolutely. And it used to be called propaganda, but that name got a bad rap somehow. And
well, there's a reason it did.
Exactly. Hey, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to hear more from CNN and their panelists and how they were describing this DNC. And I've got other words for it, but we can't say that on the air. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Kendra Rains. These two old dudes crack me up. That's why I listen to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast.
You'll be pleasantly surprised when you discover how Spam baked for dinner is a real taste tester that satisfies the family completely. That's because Spam, S-P-A-M, is a perfect blend of sweet, juicy pork shoulder meat and tender ham, seasoned in a better way, cooked to a delicious extra goodness. Plan a meal around baked Spam. It's so easy. Just open a can of Spam, place the meat in a shallow baking dish, and bake according to the recipe on the label. In a jiffy, you'll take to the table a main course so distinctive in meaty flavor, so filled with lip-smacking satisfaction that the family will say, Spam is really elegant eating. Give the folks baked Spam tomorrow. The easiest to get, best to eat dinner you've had in a long, long time. But start right and get the real thing. Be sure to ask your food dealer for S-P-A-M, Spam.
I do appreciate that, always. Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 3. We're such giving people, and you miss a lot of it when we're on a commercial break. Of course, Project 2025 was brought up ad infinitum at the DNC. How do you like that word? I like that. It was brought up several times during the convention. Even CNN had to fact check on how that went. So here it is.
Listen to this claim from Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester of Delaware about Project 2025 and former President Trump.
He has, with his friends,
said the quiet parts out loud, but not only said them out loud, he wrote a book about it. What's it called? Project 2025.
That is false. Trump did not write Project 2025. The project's big policy document published by the Heritage Foundation think tank lists dozens of people as authors, editors, contributors. Donald Trump is not among them.
And they try to put J.D. Vance on that list too, but if you go through project2025.org and go through the list of contributors, J.D. Vance is not on there either. So,
yeah, keep digging for a name there, folks, because no, it was put together by over 100 conservative companies and individuals, and that were respected in the conservative ranks. So I've read a lot of it. Just there's a lot of it to read.
Yes, it's 900 pages in a PDF form. But you know, the thing is, they've been putting this out for quite a while. I mean, it's every presidential cycle they put out a book like this, and for some reason they caught a hold of it this year, and it's never been policy. It's never been, you know, maybe parts of it have been adopted, but it's never been necessarily the even a plank of the Republican Party. But like I said, parts of it are. But they're just using it as their as a tool to try to make people think that we're just a bunch of women-hating racists and stuff.
Well, they're making it sound like it's a brand new thing that's, oh, you guys should see this new thing that's out there. Oh, my, we all should be scared. Do you realize that it's called Mandate for Leadership has been published regularly since the 1980s?
I wasn't sure when it started, but I know it comes out every presidential cycle. So, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, it's, you know, even President Obama in 2008 was complaining about it, but now it's front and center. Trump wrote it. No, he didn't.
He didn't.
This is this think tank group that's been doing this for years.
Yeah.
Jeez.
The Heritage Foundation is not a brand new thing. They've been around for a long time. Even the CNN panelists after the first night of the convention had to address, in my opinion, the elephant in the room.
In all these speeches, as good as they were, is that she's in the White House right now. Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 of the last 16 years. And for all of the talk about division and the problems in the country and people are hurting, Democrats have mostly controlled this country. Trump had it for 4. The Obamas and Biden had it for the rest of the time. And somehow, it's still all Trump's fault, and somehow she hasn't been at the center of it. So to me, that's still the glaring hole in this campaign that hasn't yet been solved at the convention. How do you explain all of the problems that will be solved by the person who is currently in there for the last 3.5 years, who is supposed to already be working on solving it?
Yeah. The same basically thing that Wesley Hunt said, that, you know, how can you blame all the problems we have when they've been in charge for the last 3.5 years and made 0 steps to fix any of them? So,
yeah, it's well, the Heritage Foundation, their aim is to restore American democracy of, by, and for the people, not of, by, and for the elites who are currently controlling Washington and making rules for everybody. And they're not, shouldn't be doing that because they were never voted in. Neither was, and they funny don't talk about that, that Kamala wasn't voted for. Kamala, Takala, I don't know, whatever her name is, wasn't voted to be the presidential nominee either. It's like some panel went, yeah, Joe, too many people have figured out he ain't all there, so let's put her in. Nobody voted for her, but she's there, and they don't say anything about that because that sure ain't democracy.
You and I both got the same amount of votes to get her on the ticket that she
the
got.
Democrats said, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Speaking of CNN, which they had a lot to say during the convention, they had a kind of admission of what the men, of course, you know, you can get a vasectomy there for the on-the-go Democrat. You could got that, and I think the first night they did 10 abortions. And they were actually pretty proud of that whole thing. And supposedly there was no there were no openings for the vasectomies. There was their dance card was full for everybody to go in there and get in the stirrups. But anyway, this is the kind of men that the Democratic Party attracts, according to CNN.
But they are doing so in trying to put forward male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan and the kind of players that came out at the RNC, or might want to listen to that, but also, in addition, understand that it's okay in 2024 to be a man comfortable in his own skin who supports a woman. And that's something that they really are trying to work on with male voters beyond the base.
Again, I don't mind voting for the woman. I just want her to be the right woman. That's all. But
I'm tired of being told how I feel and why I'm doing things the way I am. That's not it at all. Period. No.
But again, God help you if you've got testosterone in your veins and you actually have a strong opinion and don't care who likes it or who doesn't. And if you have guns, for God's sake, that's just awful. I mean, you're these.
Come on, brother, you need to vote for me. I'm a man.
I'd still rather listen to him than Tim Walz any day. Oh my gosh! I thought that was pretty funny though. She actually she kind of let it fly there. It's like we want the soy boys, we want the beta males. Oy vey. I mean, and Tim Walz really does kind of fit that category. We're going to have more about Tim Walz here in a minute. We've got so much to cover with him, and we've only scratched the surface on the things that we're talking about. So.
Or that the Democrats are talking about it.
Yeah.
Sure.
So anyway, that was Dana Bash from CNN. She kind of let it fly there. If you don't believe the lefties in America are like religious zealots, which you start saying stuff like that, because that's what communism is. It's truly a religion. You really have to believe this with your whole heart and believe that it's good for whatever country you're promoting it in, even though historically it's been a total failure and a flop every time it's been tried. But don't let that stop you. That's ridiculous. But
those are just facts. Come on, that has nothing to do with a feeling. What's wrong with you? I mean, it's the communist system. Well, I did this for the promo. Samino, gamino, give me all your money. I mean, it's all you have to do is look down at Maduro's latest election. It ain't going well down there, people, and they don't want you to see the hundreds of thousands of people that are in the streets. They can't get them all wiped out all at once.
Nope. And, it happened rather quickly. I think it was it 2008, 7, something like that? They were the third most prosperous country in the
20
Western,
years.
In the Western Hemisphere. I mean, they were. Yeah. I mean, the only people above them were Canada and the U.S. I mean, they were prosperous. They were selling oil like nobody's business, and they were doing well. And Hugo Chavez came in there and just sent them down a path that the same kind of path it seems like the lefties in America want to send us down. But here in America, and just like Hugo Chavez, and like you said, the Maduro, it's like a religious type thing. It's a religion because you got to almost close your eyes and say, "I believe, I believe, I believe." That. Anyway, Van Jones from CNN kind of wrapped it up and really brought the religious part of it in this comment. Here, listen.
Biden did something important last night, and he transferred the machinery of the party to Kamala Harris. The Obamas renewed the magic of the movement. That's what they were transferring. It was a sacred task. They took it on well. It was like an oasis. I didn't realize I had been in a spiritual desert until they created that oasis on that stage.
Sacred task, spiritual desert? Are you freaking kidding me? Oh my gosh. It's incredible. That was Van Jones.
One of the few times Biden has showed up that was indeed him, showed up, and then he disappears, and Kamala's out doing her prospecting, if you will. Who's running the country? Oh, that would be the one who's been running it. Obama's still running it. He wants a 4th term.
Well, in his 3rd term, he already talked about this. During his 2nd term, he'd like a 3rd term, running it from his basement in his sweatpants.
In sweats, and kind of what he's doing.
I think that's what he's doing. You know what? We're going to be, let's see. Let's introduce a little bit about Tim Walz. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. He last week, my initial takeaway after he was introduced and everything, is that he's probably 10 times dumber than Kamala is, as far as I can tell. He just does not. He's not an impressive guy. Did you see the video? And I think I sent it to you during the campaign or during the convention.
Yanking his kid around.
Yeah, his son is autistic.
His special needs kid.
And shame on you if you're making fun of his autistic son. Goodness gracious, I can't believe our own party, some of the people that we agree with mostly, are making fun of his autistic son. Shame on you.
Oh, please, that's wrong.
But yeah, so first of all, stop doing that. It should be beneath you. That's just terrible. And God love him. I mean, he loves his dad. You could see it when he was talking. But after the convention was over, where they walked out in the middle of the stage, or after his speech was over, or whatever it was, he yanked him like he lost his temper. And I said, everybody loses their temper, but you're in front of millions of people, television-wise, and hundreds of thousands, thousands of people in the convention itself, and you can't behave yourself while you're on stage a little bit. But he yanked that kid. That just irritated the soup out of me.
That was not one of the better moments at the convention. It was, and I'm with you. There's no need. He has nothing to do with the elections going on. Just leave him out of it.
Exactly.
It's the gentleman it was his dad that was yanking him around.
Yes.
And maybe he wanted to come out on the stage. He's apparently has severe autism of some sort, and lots of noise and lights and all that. Doesn't make them feel very comfortable, some of them.
No, and if you know anybody who's autistic, especially a young man or whatever, it doesn't matter with the age, but they end up, it does. If things freak them out, and that's just part of it. And you just gotta. You would think that he would have learned patience being around his kid for as long as he's been around. But let's go through this first story here about Tim Walz real quick. During COVID, he had set up a hotline for people to tell on their neighbors if, they left the house or for some unknown reason had company over for Thanksgiving dinner. I think they had restrictions on how many people you could have over for Thanksgiving. But this is what the hotline sounded like.
At the tone, please leave the following information: your name, your callback number, how the stay-at-home order is being violated, and where the stay-at-home order was violated.
Yeah, so he encouraged people to call in on their neighbors and say, look, they're not living up to the it's like, I can't believe.
Be a good brown shirt and be sure and rat out your neighbor.
And we're not talking about UPS drivers. We're talking about
again, we're back to the little mustache man era. Sorry.
Yes, absolutely. But this is how he sounds now. I guess he's changed his mind.
In Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and their personal choices that they make. Even if we wouldn't make the same choice for ourselves, there's a golden rule: mind your own business.
Yeah, I don't think so. He's saying what he needs to say.
That's not how he was managing things during the pandemic.
He certainly was not.
Yeah.
He's not a smart guy. I mean, she could have done so much better as far as a running mate. But anyway, when we come back, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into Tim Walz, this typical Midwesterner in a Carhartt jacket. So,
yeah, typical
so
Midwesterner, my eye.
Hang in there. We'll be right back.
If you're in our demographic, it might be a good time to go and pee. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Incomparable design makes it beautiful. State-of-the-art technology makes it brilliant. The Lexus NX. Experience the crossover in its most visionary form. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 4. If you didn't get up and go pee during the break, I'm sorry, but we've still got another 15 minutes or so. We're still we're still talking about Tim Walz, he does try to come off as this typical Midwesterner, and we have a Midwesterner on the show. Half the show is Midwest. He wears this Carhartt jacket and a camo hat, and he's supposedly this badass Army retiree. Yeah, I'm not buying a lot of it.
No, a lot of what he said he did, he didn't.
Yeah,
and you served in the service. What's your take on that?
Well, I was stationed at a small Air Force base, which is basically on Fort Bragg. We were Air Force supporting Fort Bragg, the 82nd Airborne mostly. And I've known some of these badass Army people, and none of them walk around beating their chest saying, yeah, you know what I did in combat, and you know what I did here. I knew guys when I served back in the mid '80s. I had a boss that was in Vietnam. I've known people that were in all kinds of certain situations over the years. None of them brag about how tough they are. None of them brag about anything. And as a matter of fact, today, I'm still friends with a lot of guys I served with. I talk to them on the phone on a regular basis. None of us embellish our service. I'll tell you what, I was in the Air Force, and I was an electronics tech. I was there for my brain, not necessarily my brawn. Yes, I could shoot you from 100 yards if I had to, but that wasn't what I was trained for. I took care of the air traffic control equipment, the radars, the radios, and that kind of stuff. Even the closed circuit television feeds that showed weather information for the air traffic control towers. And so we were part of the support staff. And we were still 100% military people. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I was not somebody who was trained to go kill anybody. But the guys who were trained to go kill somebody, I never heard them talk about stuff like that. I never heard them say that they were a gun-toting this and that. And that's kind of what Tim Walz comes across as. It's like, well, when I carried a weapon of war, talking about the AR-15, first of all, anybody who's ever been to war or been around the military service whatsoever, they know an AR-15 does not belong in the hands of a military personnel. It was an M16 looks a lot like it. It's based off of all that stuff, and the AR-15 is based off of that. But it doesn't have the automatic.
Enough. You don't want that.
No,
because you may not make it with that.
You certainly don't want a semi-automatic weapon, and that's what an AR-15 is. So we'll leave that there. But I just all veterans that I know, at least friends of mine, are brutally honest about their lack of being a hero. Like I said, I served 4 years. I never embellish anything that I did. I think it was great to be a part of the Reagan era, where everybody in the world was afraid of us and the whole thing. And to me, it was a neat time to be in. It was very peaceful. So yeah, I didn't see any action. And some guys I knew did, but you never hear him brag about it. This guy brags about stuff. To me, that's a big red flag. So
I've met and known several guys that were special forces of one thing or another, and a gentleman that I knew that had served in Vietnam. Nobody was bragging. None of the people, not one of them, bragging about anything. So, when you hear that, that's the same thing for me. It's like something ain't right here.
Right. I knew a guy that I worked with a guy that was in a reserve unit. And when he came back, him and I got talking privately one day. I said, how'd things go over there? What was your deal? And he let in, I'm not going to say his name or anything, but he kind of let in on what his job was. He was on top of a Humvee, and his job was to take out anybody that ran up to the Humvee in a backpack or whatever, because that kind of thing was happening. He was in Baghdad. That kind of thing was happening quite often. And he said he had to shoot two little kids, like 8, 9, 10 years old, because that's what they were doing. And of course, the people that live over there, these people who hate America, that live in that country, would strap a bomb to the back of a kid and let them run up to that Humvee to take out the 9 or 10 troops that happen to be on that. And that was a success for them, even though it blew up a kid at the same time. They don't value life the same way we do.
They're expendable.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff is,
But he told me me that kind of thing. And it was in confidence. Like I said, I'm not going to say his name, but it was in confidence, and it wasn't bragging whatsoever. It was talking about how he had trouble sleeping because of that. I cannot imagine doing that kind of work, but that was his job. But can you imagine having to shoot little kids here as Americans and as Christians, as a Christian nation? That's we value life. That's got to be hard to deal with.
They don't value them, and he saved the life of all the folks that were in the convoy too.
Absolutely.
So it's sad stuff to hear.
It is.
Well, we have other sad stuff from Mr. Walz.
Yes.
Vamp on Tim. What is he been up to telling us tall tales of?
Yeah. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton interviewed the guy, the Sergeant Major Tom Behrens, who had to step up and take over when Walz decided to retire just before being sent over to Afghanistan. And this guy has a good perspective from who was up close and personal to that situation. It's a little bit of a clip, so listen closely. This guy it gives you a peek inside of what Tim Walz is made of.
We're speaking to retired Minnesota National Guard Command Sergeant Major Thomas Behrens, who answered the call and took his men to war after Tim Walz decided he had other better things to do with his time. And that's what we're discussing right now. Sergeant Major Behrens, can you just tell me this? The allegations or criticisms that are out there about Walz embellishing his record, things like saying he served as part of the war in Afghanistan when he was in Italy, and now saying he's supportive. Do you find those criticisms also valid? Does it bother you? Does it bother other members of the service when somebody is inflating or embellishing their record?
It's absolutely gut-wrenching hearing it. I mean, there's been so many veterans that have came out and can't stand this rhetoric that he's been spewing for years. It literally cuts to the core of, honor, duty, and respect that many military people have. Very, very, very few people ever try to lie what they did and make it look better than what they did. Between, those Afghanistan comments and saying that he's a retired command sergeant major when he wasn't, he's not. He didn't finish the course. He didn't finish his requirements, but he still. I mean, he even had a challenge coin made from Congress, from the House of Representatives, with the command sergeant major rank on it. And all those people that served in Congress, they had to listen to him blow hard about how he was the highest ranking guy in there. And it comes out now that he wasn't. And it's, that's just absolutely sad. When somebody lies that much, what the hell are they going to do at the national level? That's absolutely, it's just disgusting that, he should have just went and crawled under a rock. But instead he's out there, pounding his chest and saying he is something that he's not. He's a military impersonator is what he is. If you look up the definition of that, there's two versions, one's civilian and one's military. And, the military guy, he'll have rank on that he doesn't earn. He'll put medals on that he didn't earn. That's where the stolen valor thing comes into play, because he literally did all that for personal gain, for monetary value of being in Congress or a governor. All is, I would guess charges are probably going to be brought against him at some point.
And the way I understand it, he used all that stuff to promote himself when he was running for governor or running for Congress and the whole thing.
Yep.
So it's just icky. That's the best way I could put it.
Just not right.
Yeah, not at all. So we beat him up quite a bit. I'm sure we're going to have more. But
more things keep showing up, so it's kind of hard to ignore.
That's true. Kamala accepted the nomination on the last night of the DNC, and the one thing that really seemed to be missing was talking about policy. Here's CNN as they noticed.
Then you hear the criticism, she has to do more interviews, she has to talk about policy. Interesting from insiders you're speaking to, they're sort of like, no, absolutely not. Haven't needed to do it so far. Yeah. Why start now?
And that's exactly it. They're concerned about her doing that could potentially trip her up and give Trump some ammunition. In fact, a lot of those Democrats I spoke to today said avoid those policy prescriptions. Yeah. There's a belief that perhaps you put more ideas on paper, that's a bad idea. But the question is, voters want to see some of those ideas.
Right.
Maybe, but
We'll
if
say,
you
yeah.
go with the vibes, it's a vibes election.
Right. That's right.
It's vibes. But supposedly now
It's the vibes, you know.
I haven't looked at it, but supposedly if you go to look at her website for her campaign, there's no policy mention of hardly any policies on there that she plans on implementing or anything during her presidency. So, but speaking of policies, you kind of had to peek into their campaign strategy on night one. Inflation was mentioned 3 times. Prices were mentioned 5 times. The economy was mentioned 27 times. Crime was mentioned 6 times. The border was mentioned 8 times. And Richard, how many times was Trump mentioned?
Let's see. Carry the 1 divided by the coefficient of it was 147 times.
So it was Orange Man bad, Orange Man bad, Orange Man bad.
Oh, and did we mention Orange Man bad?
That's right. That's right. So yeah, it's all about a hate Trump party. And okay, well, I mean, if that's what you want to do. Anyway, we are at the end of our little spew off, and so you don't throw up in your coffee. We have. We have a palate cleanser. This is another Paul Harvey, and rest of the story. It's a love story that you may never have heard about directly.
Now, the rest of the story. His name was Wade Morrison. 100 years ago, early in the 1880s, he was a young pharmacist working at a drugstore in rural Retreat, Virginia. The drugstore was owned by a local physician, a rather stern old fellow, but a fair employer. And Wade was in love with his employer's daughter. Irredeemably infatuated, young Wade Morrison arrived early at church every Sunday just so he could be standing at the door as she walked inside. Passing her house, Wade always strolled slowly, hoping for a glimpse of his beloved, or perhaps even a wave should she be sitting on the front porch. Wade Morrison racked his lovesick brain for a way to get and hold the attention of his employer's lovely young daughter. And when next she did come into the drugstore, it all happened quite naturally. He said, "Good afternoon," and she answered with the same words, and she was smiling, and he stepped behind the soda fountain, proudly announced that he'd been experimenting, and he had invented a special soda just for her. Artfully combining a variety of fruit flavors, he prepared the delightful concoction. She, blushing, said that she was flattered, and so Wade's one-way romance blossomed into a mutual one. He asked if he might call on her. Happily, she granted his request, and within weeks, their relationship intensified. He was about to propose when the whole world caved in on top of Wade Morrison. The girl's father, Wade's employer, came into the drugstore one morning, said he wanted to have a word with the young pharmacist. He said, "I'll get right to the point." He said, "I don't want you seeing my daughter anymore." And then the stern old physician explained his reasoning, the predictable protest that his little girl was too young to make up her own mind, and then a rather cruel postscript to the effect that when his daughter was old enough, surely she would have the good sense to entertain a more worthy suitor, a lawyer perhaps, or should she be so lucky, a respected physician, like her father. The next day, the unhappy young pharmacist was packed and gone from rural Retreat, gone west, never ever to return. Runaway Wade Morrison's broken heart did mend. He settled in Waco, Texas, eventually owned his own drugstore there. Respected in his community, happily he married a Texas girl. His life in the West proved even more rewarding than it could ever have been elsewhere. And strangely, he owed it all to that stern old Virginia physician who had refused to have him for a son-in-law. It was appropriate then, was it not, that the most popular soda, invented and served in Wade Morrison's own drugstore, the soda that he had first concocted for his long-lost love, was named after his boyhood employer. And as surely as he never forgot that first painful, wonderful love of his young life, he was never going to let you forget her father. The man whose callous disapproval ultimately drove a young pharmacist to a success that otherwise he could never have known. It was not just a made-up name. There really was a stubborn old Virginia physician named Dr. Pepper. Only now you know the rest of the story.
Yeah, I wish I liked Dr. Pepper. I've never liked it, but what a great story.
That's kind of my choice of drink when I have a soda. Once in a blue moon, I have some at the house, and every once in a while, I don't want tea, I don't want coffee, just have a soda.
Yeah.
And that's what I get. So when I heard that, I went, oh, that's just too good to not pass up.
Yeah, it's my son's favorite too. And you either love it or you don't. I mean, that's just kind of the way it is.
Well, and a lot of people don't understand what the numbers, I don't know if they're still on there or not, the 10, 2, and 4. You need to have a Dr. Pepper at your 10 o'clock break, at your 2 o'clock break, and at 4 o'clock on your way home.
I never even noticed those numbers. Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to look at it next time. I know there's like 23 different flavor combinations in it.
23 different ingredients
or
something
like that.
I don't remember the rest of it. I just remember they had the 10, 2, and 4 on there, and that's what it was on there for.
So you have to have three of these a day if you like them.
Yeah, 3 servings a day will make you healthy.
Healthy, wealthy, and wise, or something.
And full of 75% food-grade phosphoric acid.
And,
yay.
Yes, and burps. Lots of burps. Well, we hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. Don't forget you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Smart Speaker, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Or you can just go to our website at stayoffmylawn.us for all our past and present episodes.
And we will see you next week, folks.
Thanks so much for listening, folks. Toodles, have a great week. Well, we had fun and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Well, mostly anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See you next time.